Inside Story Uganda, real source of political updates.
Well, Honorable Ssemujju, how much processing has this bill faced so far? I've seen the minister I've seen the Attorney General before Parliament today, before committee. Does this give you an impression that, yes, the antis and the pros have had enough time to process this bill?
The NRM MPs were summoned that day. They presented to them just figures, total figures of a revised budget. Those who attended the meeting told me they were surprised because usually the chief whip will be the one asking those who support and those who don't. But this time it was Mr. Museveni himself. Those in favor say to the contrary, no. Then they finished the budget. No debate, no asking any question. Then he called David Muhoozi, General, to present a statement on this law. They hadn't seen it because they have just been issued with copies. After that, he asked them whether they will support, and they said they will support. Then they left. That was the caucus consultation. There was no consultation. It was David Muhoozi telling them what is in the law, and then they asked, will you support? Yes, I will support. But they left grumbling. I have met NRM MPs themselves because, you see, this law is not only targeting political opposition and civil society. I've seen the religious leaders, the entire religious council. But it's also targeting the citizens. And these MPs represent these citizens. You have, the last time I visited the Ministry of Gender, on record, Ministry of Gender told me they have registered 170,000 Ugandans who work in Saudi Arabia. On record, those who are registered. Others are not because they are not taken by registered companies. All those ones are in danger now because they are classified as foreigners and they will need to register. Maybe even their parents will need to go to Ministry of Internal Affairs and register because they are receiving money from foreigners. And the parents will become agents of foreigners.
I thought there is a threshold to how much.
See, so Chris can tell me, I have read.
There is no
this copy I read even today in preparation for this program. I didn't
For
see the...
What would warrant you to register as...
No. You must register. You must register as... Let me read for you the provision here about an agent of a foreigner who is required to register. An agent of a foreigner means a person who acts as an agent, representative, employee, or servant, or any person who acts in any other capacity at the order, request, or under the direction or control of a foreigner or of a person, any of whose activities are directly or indirectly supervised, directed, controlled, financed, or subsidized by a foreigner. That's how wide it is.
So I don't know why they didn't even limit it. They should have said opposition and civil society, because that's the target. And then you don't have to bring everybody under the law, because your intention is not to immediately target them. So the people you are targeting, by targeting them, others have also become victims of your own civil society and political parties. So the consultations, I've told you the NRM was just a ceremony, no consultation.
And the clerk to Parliament...
The committees of Parliament...
put a notice in the newspapers inviting people, stakeholders, to make their contributions.
Right now we are dealing with the appropriation, tax laws, the budget itself. We are busy, but also ending the term of office. The mind and the concentration is not there. If you need to visit Parliament today, I was in Munyonyo when you are processing the budget, and the last of the 8 tax bills, the income tax was being processed by not more than 30 MPs. This is the wrong time, even at Parliament, to bring a law as controversial as this one and ask MPs to process it. Those of us who have lost the election, the mind is not there. The ones who have won are also, their mind is somewhere else. And you bring a law, there are no members in the committee, there are no members in Parliament, and then quickly, because you see, I saw it in Kenya. You remember when Ruto wanted to chase his vice president. These processes that are statutorily stipulated in the law, they can organize them very quickly, and then they say everybody was consulted. When we are processing tax bills, we receive the views from Uma, from Kasita, from everybody, but not a single line was considered when the NRM MPs were making a report. So inviting views doesn't necessarily mean that they are waiting for those views. It's to answer questions like yours. Did you consult? Yes, everybody came here. It's not that they are listening to them, if you've been living here. By Adolf Mwesige issuing a statement in the media, they are just answering questions like you're asking, that people are asking, did you consult? But not that they are asking for expertise views to improve the bill. The bill, if they will pass it, they will pass it the way Museveni wants it.
How much reflection has the alternative, the opposition, made on this particular bill?
We, unlike the civil society, and for us, we are there in Parliament. Most likely this bill will come next week. We will debate it. So we can give views, and the parties have. I know PFF, to which I belong, has already given its views. But in the Parliament itself, you need to ask yourself where those views are going to be received and respected. Because chances are high, and I can assure you that these NRM, sometimes even the reports of committees are written by people from outside, like Oma here, because they have the knowledge. So they write for them, they come to read. So the consultation going on now is not consultation to improve the bill or to listen to the citizens.
We have technical staff in Parliament. Legal and legislative department with lawyers. Are you saying Parliament runs to get reports from outside? Of course.
Chris, I'm talking about something, you know.
No, I have been in Parliament longer than you. So
it does not matter.
It matters.
Maybe the time you were...
You will not deceive the public.
Maybe before you became an MP, that's what you... I mean, a minister, that's what I am talking about now. That reports sometimes are written by outsiders and MPs just carry them to the floor. That I know for a fact.
Like which committee?
I don't want to go beyond that.
Mr. Uma.
So the consultations going on, the question you asked, are not consultations to change anything or to influence this legislation. Are consultations to back up argument that the citizens have. You've seen Chris here, they have said, we are discussing, people are giving views, and that's where it will stop.
The Honorable Ssemujju was talking about the age limit, the Tojikwataku. Every time you see Adolf Mwesige's notice in the papers, there's something fish about that bill.
He is the clerk.
Not every, let me tell you, I know, and I respect him very much. This is what I'm telling you, it's not Adolf, by that time it was Tandekwire.
Yeah.
But this what?
It must have been another person.
Chibiriki.
Okay, fine. Tandekwire had left. Well, the point is, the clerk, anyway, let me say the clerk. Because not every bill which is presented before Parliament invites a notice in the press that it is presented, it's published there. It's not the case. The other thing which I wanted also to talk about, one aspect which is also outrageous, and this Charles Uma will also agree with me. In chapter 6, no, schedule 6 of the Constitution, you don't have a copy of the Constitution there. The framers, the promulgators of the Constitution, wanted to dichotomize the functions which are a pre-reserve of the central government and those which are for local government. They listed them. Now, when these people were coming up with this bill, they got these functions ordinarily vested in the government, the central government, to say, these ones are excluded from external financing. Totally excluded. Even if you are registered as an agent of a foreigner or a foreigner, you are bad. And when you look at the list here, including the judiciary, and the judiciary, the justice sector is financed by external financiers. Now they are saying no external financier is allowed to finance the judiciary. They are excluding it in this bill. That's how absurd it is. So does that require me to go there and tell them that, please, this thing is defective? It's absolute hogwash. You throw it in the dustbin. Does that require me to be there?
Yeah,
So
but
that is one. The other thing is...
I want you to look at it this way. These are expert brains.
But I've told you these aspects. I've given you these aspects. And do
you want to suggest that they are not the ones behind the drafting?
This is what I'm telling you. You see, when something is brought in bad faith, there is that evil hand which is pushing it. The evil hand may not be Charles here, may not be anyone in that Attorney General's chambers. Those may be just purveyors, couriers. They are just directed, please, come up with something to this effect, press it before Parliament, and when you go to Parliament, don't waste time. Because the committee is always given 45 days in the rules. But what is going to happen, I can assure you, as day follows night, this bill, Parliament is going to be prorogued or dissolved. I think by 12, government has to be dissolved. You, ourselves, we have to dissolve by 12. So before Parliament is dissolved, they are going to pass this bill. I'm assuring you.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, the point the Lord Mayor has raised may need to be put in context. The provision with regard to the sixth schedule in the Constitution is not in absolute terms. It provides for an exception with the approval of government. So that doesn't mean that no entity or even a foreign agent should participate in matters that have been listed in the sixth schedule. You can participate if you are registered, but also with the approval of government.
Let me add one little thing here about the absurdities we are talking about. Earlier on, I read to you this provision which defines
a foreign agent.
No, not a foreign agent. An agent of a foreigner. And you heard how wide it is, including sweepers in these companies owned by foreigners. Just look at this situation where you get a petrol station. For example, most of these petrol stations are foreign owned. They are alien. They are not domestically owned here. They just register here as foreign companies under the Companies Act. Just imagine the people who work there, these pump attendants, or a sweeper in a bank, which is owned by South Africans or owned by Asians, or these Chinese companies that are operating here, and they have locals who are employed there. Simply because you are supervised, you are directed, you are controlled by that foreign company, you are construed as an agent of a foreigner, and of necessity you must register with the Kahindo Tafiri. Isn't that an absurdity?
The trouble with the government, when they are closing DGF, which was a democracy
Governing facility.
Because I don't even think Museveni had been properly briefed that these people are funding Parliament, Judiciary, etc. Because they also funding seminars of political parties and I think civil society. They woke up one day, but the biggest amount of the money was going to Judiciary and Parliament. So because they were targeting civil society and political parties, we all lost the money. Now you are processing a budget and there are unfunded priorities at Parliament, in the Judiciary, because they wanted to stop political parties from benefiting. And you need to understand the mentality of Mr. Museveni. When the Netherlands Institute for Democracy came here to help us, they were giving political parties computers, training youth, and so on and so forth, but also calling for a dialogue. Say now the dialogue I will sponsor. In a meeting with Munyonyo, he says now, these ones we don't want. I must be the one funding. When he meets the religious leaders, he must be the one funding. Yet he's also looking for money from outside. This budget that we'll be handling tomorrow, 11 trillion is listed as money, because if you look at the government borrowing plan, the borrowing plan has a formula of 65-35. 65 of the money that will fund the budget is going to come from, it's a formula for borrowing. 65 of the money that will be borrowed, which is 40% of the budget, is going to be borrowed from domestic. They call them domestic. But even what they call domestic are all South African banks, Stanbic and Standard. And then 35 is going to be borrowed from outside. So they are looking for money from outside. They are saying nobody. I'm asking them in my report whether these are not agents of foreign interest that have written in their plan to fund a budget that 40% of the budget will borrow. And part of the 11 trillion will borrow from outside sources. They even list them, all the lending institutions. So as soon as the budget is passed, they will be on the next flight going to look for money from outside. We should be waiting for these fellows at Entebbe to arrest them. This is actually the real agents of foreign interest.
Well, Honorable Chris, when you're having a discussion in cabinet over this bill, yes, did you ever anticipate or envisage the outrage it would cause? And now that you've tested the waters, don't you think you need to reflect again?
We actually first discussed in the cabinet and raised a number of issues. We sent it back to the minister, and the minister responded to the issues raised and then improved the bill. So we had a very robust
So this
discussion.
is refined?
Yes, from cabinet. You see, this, just hold on. Just hold on. You see, this attitude that because you have an opinion over the bill or provisions, therefore you are right, you think it's unconstitutional, therefore for us who drafted it fake or we don't know what to do. That arrogance also should stop.
Yeah, but look at the sections of society that have come out.
No problem.
Religious leaders.
I said it is heresy.
Bankers.
Absolutely.
Lawyers. Diaspora.
Just guiding them, all of them should stop the arrogance.
No. I'm saying the arrogance of the lawyers here, simply because you are a lawyer and you have formed an opinion, you think for us, we don't know anything. All of us have been to school. This law is written in simple English. Because they are saying, you minister, you don't understand what you are presenting. I do understand. You may have an opinion, respect mine also. If you think it's unconstitutional, go to the court which interprets the laws. Just hold on.
When you talk Peter Pan, whatever, I respect you.
He wasn't arrogant.
So, he wasn't arrogant. That was not arrogance.
We have had bills which have been contentious. I can name one. The constitutional amendment on age limit. Some Ugandans were arguing as if Parliament passes it, then the heavens will fall down and the sun will change and will rise from the west and set in the east. We passed it, there is no mercy.
But what was the process of passing it?
We had a contentious discussion.
That's a big question.
Yeah, people are still nursing their backs. The military raided the parliament.
But it passed.
Are you proud of that process?
No,
really?
but it passed.
No, it passed. Should it pass at gunpoint?
Just hold on. We had a contentious discussion on rationalization, especially taking the functions of UCDA to Ministry of Agriculture. People were saying,
the military again came in.
People were saying, our coffee is being taken. Has anybody's coffee plant been uprooted by government? You answer. So even this will come to pass. What is happening is heresy and doesn't worry us or bother us as government. We have brought a proposal. It is there for Ugandans now to react to it.
Yeah, but
and we are receiving the reactions in good faith. So don't think that because the bankers have comments, the religious leaders have comments, therefore it is negative.
So who is for it? And if bankers have commented, lawyers have commented, civil society has commented.
Ugandans. Yes.
But these are representatives of Ugandans.
Yes.
So in whose interest is this bill now being?
Ugandans.
Which Ugandans?
No, hold on. Is it the
Which
first time?
Ugandans?
Is it the first time Ugandans are commenting on the bill in the parliament. Actually, the right process should be like that. That when the bill goes to the committee,
Recently,
as many
just information. A couple of weeks ago, when Rumu was pushing that bill, and many people rejected it, the speaker pronounced herself and said, if all the people who have appeared before the committee have rejected it, what business have we got to do with it? You withdraw it.
That's even not the work of the speaker. She was wrong. The speaker, that's not her work. The work should be the committee. The committee which should listen to Ugandans or any other person interested. They should make a report and bring it to the House.
Government seems to be hell-bent on passing this bill at any cost.
That is your view.
To the extent of calling people with divergent opinion arrogant.
No. Yes, you are being arrogant when you say the minister doesn't know what he's presenting. I know. I have been to school the way you have been to school. You can have a viewpoint which is different from mine, but don't take yours to be superior to what I am saying. So let's give a chance to the Committee of Parliament to process the bill. They will listen to as many interested persons as possible, and then they will bring a report back to Parliament. If in the opinion of the committee, for instance, that the bill should be thrown out, they will say so, but the final decision will be taken by the Parliament of Uganda. It is not correct to say that the committee members do not value the comments from the public. That's not true. I have been in the Parliament for 20 years. It is not true that the committee has inability or is deficient. It can't write a report. It depends on people from outside. I think that's bastardizing parliamentary work. We have technocrats in Parliament. We have a Department of Research, a Department of Legal and Legislative Services. We have economists. We have all specializations in Parliament. And those technical people support members of Parliament in the process.
You attended caucus where Honorable David Muhoozi addressed the NRM MPs. Did you have time to debate this?
Well, the
or
members,
you just consumed it also?
Who claim they know what happened in the caucus are saying there was no consultation. Why didn't we invite one of the NRM members of Parliament to come here and denounce the consultation which took place? You claim you held the meeting of the caucus members where? Just this is to hoodwink the public. So, the process of Ugandans giving their views, even non-Ugandans can go to the committee, giving their views is heresy, and that's part of the parliamentary process. If, for instance, the bill is amended to the tune of over 30% of the bill being changed, the practice in the parliament is that we shall send it back to the minister.
So this time it's going to be 70%.
No,
this is what we were told.
No. You see, first of all, the members of the committee are not duty-bound that whatever you present must be included. They will evaluate the comments from the public and then look at them and then improve the bill. And then the bill, they make a report.
Honorable, as we take a very short break, Job will come after the break.
Honorable,
what does it mean when Ugandans are very suspicious of any kind of bill that government presents?
Well, then it becomes our duty as the authors of the bill to explain to Ugandans. Maybe the weakness on the side of government.
Or you're just shady that Ugandans are.
The weakness which I must concede to on the side of government that maybe we have not explained enough. The civil society and the opposition have taken the front page in terms of bastardizing this bill and therefore misleading many of the Ugandans. Why? Because they receive funding from outside. Actually, the person who would be worried is somebody maybe who has been getting evil money from outside. Otherwise, if I have been getting money, say to build the health centers, to build the schools, why would I be worried? If I am getting money for the right intentions. Because the bill is saying a foreigner who is doing something against the interests of Ugandans.
No.
Yes.
No.
No, don't say no. That's, you read it. And what we are saying, if you think there is any formulation which is wrong or incorrect, improve it. It is not correct for a road mayor to just say...
For you to register, it doesn't need to be evil money. No.
And there is nothing wrong with registering.
That's where you go wrong. If
you say a foreigner should register,
if you have a relative,
what do you lose?
If you have a relative in Dubai and they are sending money here to help their relatives here, say with the domestic affairs, school fees or what, must I register with the Kyelinda Tafire to get school fees from my relative who is in Dubai?
But who told you the Minister of Internal Affairs will forever be General Kyelinda Tafire?
He's the one who now
holds someone could come on the national TV and say, because the Internal Affairs Ministry has generals, Otafire, Musayifu, David, is really just
political parties
being
are required under the Political Parties and Organizations Act to file returns.
Yes.
If you have received the money, you must declare to Electoral Commission how much and where it came from. Why are you now asking
And there is a
me,
ceiling.
Yes, why are you now asking me to go?
The bill stipulates quite a number of penalties towards offenders, including being imprisoned for 20 plus years, among others. Of course, there is also a fine of 2 billion. That comes to about 100,000 currency points. In another, that's all for promoting foreign interests against Uganda. There is still a lot of ambiguity on what foreign interests means. But well, as the bill undergoes the process, why is civil society so scared?
If you are a representative of a foreign and you are not registered, say you were a sweeper in a commercial bank which is foreign.
I think you have...
Yes, this is what I'm telling you. The offense you have committed carries a sentence of 50,000 currency points, that is 1 billion, or imprisonment for 10 years.
For a sweeper?
For a sweeper.
You go and read the bill.
Well, Job. So why is civil society so scared? You are a bit mentioned here. I see civil society being mentioned here and there in this bill.
Actually, civil society should worry because civil society represents citizens. So it is scared on behalf of citizens. It's not even scared because behind civil society are individuals. There are individuals that are employed in organizations. There are individuals that are surviving off those employees of those organizations, but there are also beneficiaries from civil society services. Because the world over, civil society or even NGOs, if I am to say, exist to fill up gaps that are left by inefficiencies of government. And I think there are so many inefficiencies of this government that civil society has been actually trying to fill up. If you look at health service provision, 65% of health services in this country are provided by private actors, including NGOs, civil society, churches, etc. If you move across the country, you realize that civil society are chipping in terms of providing water, in terms of providing education services. When you go to the prisons, they are telling you of how congested they are. But civil society organizations have been going to these prisons and training prisoners to self-represent, such that even when they cannot afford lawyers, they can go to court, represent themselves, and they are able to get out of the courts because, you know, prisons are filled up. The people that are returning from Luzira, Kitalia, etc., the Lord Mayor is here, he has been going there several times. He can tell you that people are now sleeping on each other, not even on double deckers or triple deckers, but they tell you that there are 4 people sleeping like sardines in a prison cell. So there are so many civil society organizations that have been trying to intervene in that case. So the question as to why civil society is scared, first of all, this is not the first time that civil society has been more or less a punching bag for this government. You know, we have the NGO law. As we speak, actually, it is very surprising that we have this law because there's another process which is ongoing, the regulatory impact assessment of the NGO regulatory environment, which is going to come up with a new law for NGOs. It is going to come up with a new NGO policy, regulations, etc. There are so many other laws that are also regulating civil society. So there's over-regulation of civil society. But for me, I think...
For a while, your relationship, the relationship between government and civil society has been frosty. Do you imagine it's getting more complex? And how complex can it get?
So let me say this, that actually there's a way in which the government has lied to Ugandans to believe that this law is about civil society. Because if you read the memorandum of this bill, it talks about civil society. And actually, it has 3 objectives. But 2 objectives are targeting civil society. They are making the claim that there's an increase in NGO funding, which is not regulated, interference in activities of government. Yet actually, in reality, there's no evidence that they are giving in terms of civil society intervening, but also the actual reality is that financing to NGOs has actually, over the last 10 years, reduced by over 80%. That most of the NGOs actually right now are struggling because of lack of funding. You know the story of the departure of DGF, which was also occasioned by government. Last year, but one, USAID closed. Majority of the NGOs that were benefiting from USAID funding actually have also shut down. So there's no funding for civil society anymore. So if this law is saying that the basis for being created is because there's an increment in funding for civil society, it's actually a lie. But the point I want to make...
but you are explicitly mentioned here, foreign aid to civil society that comes along with conditions and parallel programs which conflict with government programs.
Simon.
This has given external donors significant influence over Uganda's political, social, and economic landscape, which has resulted into the erosion of the values we hold sacred as a nation. It has also undermined our right to self-determination.
So let me say two things on that. The first thing, I think I've made the point that actually there's no evidence in terms of what they are saying. They are telling lies because financing for civil society has reduced. But the second thing I want to say is that also government is being disingenuous because when funding comes to this country, when donors bring money to this country, over 95% of the funding that comes in is actually going to government. Okay? Civil society is receiving just about 1% of that funding. The rest is going to other sectors, maybe religious institutions, etc. So civil society is just receiving a snippet of that funding. So the question is, why is it that when this funding comes, which is coming from EU, from US, from the DENS, from wherever, when the funding is going to government, which is 95% plus, the government is actually, these are not interests of foreigners. But when it goes to civil society or any other actor, then foreigners are trying to influence the affairs of the country. But I think the most fundamental point to make is that this bill as crafted, much as the memorandum is talking about civil society, when you read it from clause 1 to clause 30, there is no single clause that is specific to civil society. These clauses are touching every Ugandan. The bill has cast a very wide net. If I were to describe it in terms of a fishing net, the net goes into an ocean, it catches a shark, it catches a Nile perch, it catches tilapia, it catches mukene, it catches snails, it catches, there are these things which are put in dog food and chicken food. I don't know what they are called. It catches all those things, it even catches sand. That is the kind of net they have cast. And so it is not clear actually as to what exactly these guys are trying to regulate. Now, if you read this bill, I would like you to go to clause 11.
You here. No, let me just help you make your case just briefly, Simon. Because he's saying there is no clause specifically regulating the activities of civil society. But in the preamble, it's plain language. They are criminalizing. They are declaring activities. They are criminalizing activities of civil society.
You read it.
This is the language here.
Lord Mayor, I hear you, and I totally agree with you. Well, the point I am making is that they are not criminalizing the activities of civil society alone. They are criminalizing the activity of everybody. Actually, this law is an attack on Ugandans. It is not an attack on civil society. It is not an attack on political parties. It is an attack on religious institutions. It is an attack of churches. It is an attack on the Muslim faith. It is an attack on the cultural institutions. It is an attack on the Buganda. It is an attack on the Kadamas that are working in the Middle East and wherever. It is an attack on every single Ugandan. Because first of all,
you have left out lawyers.
So it is an attack on lawyers
who represent clients,
international clients. It is an attack on accountants. Actually, this law is an attack on government because the biggest loser by this law is government. Why do I say so?
Yeah, but the underlining statement is safeguarding Uganda's interests.
So actually, by this law, government is legislating itself, first of all, into international isolation. But also, it is legislating itself into loss of revenue. Why do I say that? I'm saying that because when donors look at such an environment, okay, already we are struggling with even so many other laws. We've been blacklisted. I think the World Bank had just come back. They had stopped giving us loans and grants. I think they've just come back. I don't know that they have actually given us any grant as yet.
That is why.
Because of your bad laws. Because of because of your inconsiderate legislation.
Let me help you. He's asking that question. This financial institution, financial intelligence authority.
No,
the financial intelligence authority.
No, because of the homosexuality law.
Actually,
and why do you want us to feel shy? Because
no. Government was on the grey list of the FATF, not because of the anti-homosexuality law. It was on the grey list because it was failing to regulate the actual money laundering, and it was using the anti-money laundering law to target to persecute civil society. And that is why, to persecute civil society, and
using
because
this financial
using that financial intelligence authority. And that is why one of the conditions to remove government of Uganda from that grey list. One of the conditions to remove government of Uganda from that grey list was the removing of civil society from being accountable persons. And they went to parliament and removed civil society. And they were removed off the grey list. Now they are coming up with this evil law, as the Mulodi has described it, which actually is going to take us back onto that list, which is very unfortunate.
You wouldn't impute evil on people like Ouma. Ouma, with all his experience as Deputy Solicitor General, has told you how much input, how much benchmarking that they made.
Simon.
Ouma is a handmaid. He's rather midwife. You can't blame a midwife who never helped the person to conceive. He's not responsible. He's not the one who helped the government to conceive and come up with this bill.
Simon, let me first clarify that.
He's a midwife.
The reason I would call this law evil is because this is the only law I have ever heard of that strips an individual of their citizenship simply because they are staying in another country. We are going to have... This is what the law is saying. I don't know that, Honorable Baremos, I don't know that you've read this law.
I have.
This law is going to make people stateless.
He's the Minister of
Because we have so
Information.
many, we have so many people that are living in other countries that actually don't have citizenship there. Even when our Ugandan laws actually provide for no citizenship. There are so many people that are living there that are not citizens.
Yes.
When this law strips you of your citizenship, you become stateless.
Just briefly, the law is saying, for purposes of this law, somebody who is resident outside Uganda will be treated like a foreigner, but you don't cease being a citizen of Uganda.
Simon, can you read the provision
the moment
for
you
Uganda,
are resident, you are domiciled outside Uganda, you are a foreigner.
Yes.
No, for purposes of this law.
No.
Of administration of
You
this
need
law.
For her medical bills, what has that got to do with defeating government purposes?
No, you have to go to the ministry
to register.
Exactly. If at all the funds that you're going to use is intended to influence government policy.
No. There is no qualification to that effect. No.
It is actually there. Look at section 2. It lays out the kinds of funds and the intent of the use of those funds.
No.
So it's not so much about foreign funds coming into the country. It is about the usage of those funds. That's the purpose of this bill, because the idea is we need to avert the promotion of foreign interests.
The spirit is questionable. Parts of cross-sections of the public who would be welcoming and embracing this law in the interest of the sovereignty of Uganda are questioning the spirit. How cleaner can you come?
So are you saying we should allow foreigners to come and do anything they want here, even when it's against the interest of Ugandans? Is that your argument?
What are you querying?
But what are the interests of Ugandans? What are they?
I think that's
you need to define them for us.
What are the
Which are those interests such that we don't interfere with them?
The interests are defined in Article 1 of the Constitution.
What are they?
That the power belongs to us Ugandans. And we should enjoy that sovereignty, meaning if we are to make policies, if we are to make legislations, if we are to develop programs, if we are to determine our destiny, it should be done by us Ugandans. So this bill is saying there are foreigners out there who may want to determine the destiny of Uganda. And we're saying no. We are an independent country, we are a sovereign country, we took to self-rule. we must be able to determine our future
Is there
ourselves.
an existential
If, for instance,
threat?
we want to have elections to elect who should lead us, it should be us Ugandans to say, be our president, be our MP, be our chairman, be our road mayor, not some Muzungu in America or in Europe to determine who should be our mayor.
The same Bazungu you ran to are the ones who are now becoming a threat. What an irony.
No. We run, if you call it running too, we can borrow, we can get grants, we can do what. We are not stopping that. We are only saying money which comes from outside. The state needs to know what is this money coming to do. If it is for the right cause, like you are sending money to build a house for your grandmother, no problem.
Aren't you being over-intrusive?
No.
Whoever receives money, government should be asking what the purpose is.
I would like
Why
you to
not?
correct
Why
that
not?
misrepresentation.
So the issue is about this money is coming to do what?
I want to correct that.
No, I am telling you are the author of the bill if you have not
I have
understood
it here.
Yes.
Let me read it.
You may read and fail to understand. And I'm now telling you, as
Clause
the
2
author of
Clause
the
2
bill,
is here.
what the intention is.
Application of this law.
Yes.
This act applies to any person who acts as an agent of a foreigner. That is sub-clause 1.
Yes.
2, for the avoidance of doubt, this act applies to an agent of a foreigner who engages in any of the following activities through any means, including the use of digital platforms. A, engages in political activities in Uganda for or in the interest of a foreigner. B, this is what is relevant when it comes to money.
Yes.
Solicits, collects, disburses, or dispenses contributions, loans, money, or other things of value for or in the interest of a foreigner.
Yes.
And remember,
If
a
a
foreigner, a Ugandan living outside
Outside
Uganda,
the Uganda
is a foreigner.
So if that Ugandan
Yes.
who is domiciled in Dubai sends money to build a house here,
It's okay.
and I receive it here, I'm acting
On behalf
on
of
behalf
of
and
that.
for the interest of this foreigner.
So
And of necessity, I must register.
what is wrong with registering?
That's where now the problem comes
What is
in.
wrong with registering?
Okay, gentlemen, as we get out of
Why
here,
do they ask you
as we get out
to
of here,
register before you
Councilwoman,
practice
I just want to bank that line.
No.
Councilwoman,
Yes, please.
Is
is
registering
the
criminal?
ambiguity in this law deliberate?
First of all, we don't consider there to be ambiguity. Maybe what may be obtaining currently is the absence of 100% clarity. I think the Honorable Minister of Information has clearly highlighted that there's a need to educate the masses and explain to them where are we coming from, where are we, where do we intend to go. If at all there is any ambiguity, which I have stated I don't think exists, there is a forum where this can be addressed. Like I stated again, this is a process. Let's allow for this process.
Who is an agent of a foreigner?
It's stated
defined.
clearly, it's defined. Would you like me to read it?
Yes. Who is an agent of a foreigner?
As is getting the law, let me say this, Simon. On the question of ambiguity, Ouma here knows. Now I'm not talking about Peter Pan syndrome. There is this notion, principle, which should always be at the back of their mind as they are drafting the law. Nura Owen Kurimen Simirege. Nura Owen Kurimen Simirege. If you are making a penal law, it must be very, very clear and certain. Clarity is important, is critical. You don't leave any room for ambiguity or misconstruction. So it's an obligation on the draftsman not to throw it to Parliament and say, if there is any vagueness or ambiguity,
Explain.
that